from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Thursday night edition of the program. We're live, we're national, New York time, so it's 10:07 p.m. New York time, and we're bringing you the Trump speech momentarily. Of course, you'll be able to join the show by calling in 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-482-5337 is the phone number, and I want to begin with a little bit of news, right? Some breaking news that was broken by Mark Halperin from Newsmax, who has sources that have revealed to him that Joe El Baboso Biden has agreed to step aside. Now, he had a conversation earlier today with Carl Higbie on Newsmax. We have a clip of that. Listen to this.
According to my sources, President Biden has agreed to step down as the Democratic nominee.
Oh, man.
It will happen as early as this weekend. A speech has been drafted for him. He will continue on as president, is his intention. He also will not, I'm told, endorse Vice President Harris as his successor. They're hoping that he will endorse an open process in which the convention will be open to Vice President Harris and a few other candidates in Chicago to pick the Democratic nominee for president. The belief is that Vice President Harris is already looking at potential running mates to go to Chicago with a full ticket, including one possibility, Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, and perhaps the governor of Pennsylvania, Governor Shapiro. Other possible candidates who are being talked about include Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, perhaps Gretchen Whitmer, and again, the vice president running. On the first ballot, the regular delegates would be allowed to vote under this agreement that's being talked about amongst the president and high-level Democratic officials. The regular delegates would vote on the first ballot. If there is no winner on the first ballot, the so-called super delegates would be allowed to vote on the subsequent ballot.
Again, that is Mark Halperin. You might have seen him on the Showtime political show, The Circus, breaking that news on CNN, on MS. Hello, I'm looking at too many screens right now. On Newsmax earlier today. You didn't hear it on CNN. You didn't hear it on MSNBC. And again, we're moments away from President Trump taking the stage at the RNC to accept his nomination. Again, Joe Biden announcing that he will step aside. That's the breaking news from a couple of hours ago. Just want to make sure you're up to speed on that. The crowd is very excited from what I can see in Milwaukee. I want to go to our correspondent on the ground for Westwood One, Steve Futterman. Tell us what's going on.
Well, we're waiting for Donald Trump to make his acceptance. You know, this is historic. We've never really had, you have to go back to the 1800s when a former president was going to be the nominee after losing an election after he was president for 4 years. Grover Cleveland was the only other president who won, lost, and tried to win again, and eventually he did. So this is really uncharted territory in the era that we live in right now. So it's going to be very interesting. And, of course, we are all interested in hearing what the tone of the Donald Trump speech is going to be. He has indicated that he had a speech already go before the assassination attempt this past weekend, and that he tore it up, and he's going to be, remember the old George Bush line, kinder, gentler? We will see. Yeah. Kinder, gentler are not words we normally associate with Donald Trump in his political career, but we'll see tonight. Obviously, it's a life-changing event. We've had some interesting speakers tonight, and as we're talking, Rich, Melania Trump is entering the arena. She has been, I think, interestingly absent during all this. It doesn't appear that she's going to be as active in this presidential campaign as she was 8 years ago. Obviously, 4 years ago, COVID was taking place. So it's going to be very interesting. Many eyes focused on her and Ivanka Trump. She's expected to make an appearance as well tonight. They have not been at the convention so far. But again, all eyes focused on Donald Trump. What type of speech will it be? Will it be a traditional in-face Donald Trump, or will he be that kinder, gentler, that term that George Bush used? I think that was in 1988. Yes, that was his speech, his acceptance speech in 1988 when he ran against Dukakis.
Steve Futterman on the ground in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the RNC. Steve, I appreciate you keeping us up to speed on everything. And obviously, mum is the word on what Trump is going to talk about. There's a lot of speculation. I really appreciate it. Do you feel more excitement tonight than you have on other nights?
No, I'll tell you, I think the first night when he walked in the arena, that's going to be hard to ever top. Remember, he was just 2 days from being, shot in the ear, an assassination attempt. He came very close. Obviously, we know how close he came to having the bullet go somewhere else. I think that was the most emotional night of this convention. And, he's been there every night, and he'll get the crowd going. I'm sure he's, whether you like him or not, if you agree with him or not, he does get the crowd going. And these are the people who are the true believers. He's not trying to convince this crowd to vote for him. They already made that decision. They were coming here to adore him, to cheer him on, and they hope to lead him on the way to regaining the presidency. So he's not trying to convince a crowd. It'll also be interesting to see, is he going to reach out tonight? Remember, there are those independents, people who voted against him last time, are many people who voted for him 8 years ago. So he needs to win some of those people back, and we'll see if he does the reach out. Again, not something Donald Trump usually does, but we'll see what he does tonight. We want to see if he's going to mention the assassination attempt. I would assume he'll make some reference to it, obviously, because it does change, obviously, someone's life, you would think, when you go through something like that. Another thing I'm going to be interested in seeing, because yesterday, J.D. Vance did not mention this word once in his acceptance speech. Is the word abortion going to come up? Because traditionally, Republican conventions do have that word come up. Roe versus Wade has taken place, has been overturned in the last 4 years. And, all the politicians, the pundits agree it has hurt Republicans. So I don't know if that will be something that he brings up, but it will be interesting. As a political observer, I'm interested in seeing if that word is even mentioned in the Trump speech.
Steve Futterman on the ground in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Again, excellent reporting, excellent analysis. I really appreciate it. Folks, I want to thank you, Steve, and everybody listening for bringing us this coverage these days. Tonight's the final big night, so if we have another one coming up soon, hopefully you're our guy, Steve.
Sounds good. I'll be in Chicago. Maybe we'll talk then when the Democrats meet.
Outstanding. Sounds good, brother. Thanks again. All right, folks, that's Steve Futterman, correspondent on the ground for Westwood One. Now, as the crowd in Milwaukee, Wisconsin is eagerly anticipating the entrance of Donald Trump, they're playing a demo reel, right? Like a sizzle reel of his accomplishments, both as a real estate mogul, as a private citizen, his first run for president, some of his accolades as president, the bridges that he's built with different constituencies. And I'm looking at an image of President Biden right now, showing the contrast. You got Biden and Kamala Harris, que malaitis, and Joe Barbosa Biden with a caption that says, income has fallen for the third straight year in a row. Images of the border that are being displayed. And it's very interesting because there's been a lot of rumor throughout the day that Trump will not be mentioning Joe Biden, being that he's announced, like I said, not announced, but it's been leaked that he will be announcing by the weekend that he is going to be stepping aside, not running for president, and that he's, from what Mark Halperin reported, that he's going to maintain his presidency. He's not going to resign as president to make her president, which I think would be the best political thing to do if I was a Democrat. That's what I would do, but I'm glad he's not. And her team thinks that she needs to fight for this nomination and not be coronated because it wouldn't have the impact that one would think it would have, right? Or that it ought to have in order for her to win the presidency. So there's been some speculation about other candidates maybe doing a little leapfrog on Kamala Harris and going with somebody else. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think all along, the only thing I know, at least in my gut, that I can tell you, it won't be Michelle Obama. I think I've said that repeatedly for the last, 5 or 6 years. Every time there's a presidential election, it's, Michelle Obama, she's the secret weapon, she's the secret. No, she's not. She's just a very wealthy woman. And I don't think she wants to become president and lose that wealth the way El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States, did. So anyway, what I'm going to do is we're moments away from Trump taking the stage to begin his acceptance speech for the Republican nomination for president. I'm going to take a pause right here. We're going to be back in 3 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
This decision was reached, I'm told, all of a sudden because of the high-level pressure from Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, and others, and as well as the decision of many of the President Biden's top aides that there was no path forward for him, that he would not be able to win this election, win the general election. And therefore, he's stepping aside again as early as this weekend.
Again, that's Mark Halperin for Newsmax TV reporting that sources have confirmed to him that Biden will be stepping aside as soon as this weekend. Joe Biden reported to now be stepping aside, allowing an open process, and not agreeing to endorse Kamala Harris, which I think is really in poor form, right? I mean, if you're stepping aside, why not say? From what the reporting has been, they said he's going to say nice things about her, but he's not going to say that you should vote for her, which, again, to me, this all sounds like they used hardball tactics. The hardball tactic of saying, look, I'm the vice president. I just need a couple of other cabinet members to threaten you with the 25th Amendment to get you out of here. So what's it going to be, brother? You step aside gracefully and do what you got to do, and this is the deal that they're negotiating now. Like, all right, I'll step aside if you're going to blackmail me, but I'm not going to. And I understand Nancy Pelosi had a hand in this from Mark Halperin's reporting, and putting this threat upon Biden, saying, look, you can't win. Now, she's denied saying that he can't win, but apparently that's the reporting. By the way, Kid Rock is performing at the RNC. He has just dropped the mic, literally dropped the mic on the stage. I'm anticipating either there's going to be another hype man coming out or El Trompito Donaldus Magnus. I guess in true Trump fashion, there's going to be a lot of fanfare before he comes out. So I want to give you one more clip from this reporting from Mark Halperin on Newsmax TV, saying that Biden is not expected to endorse Vice President Kamala Harris as the presidential nominee. He's just going to allow this to be an open process. Listen to this.
Mark, what are the political ramifications for a party that based much of their platform on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they're passing right over Kamala Harris, and he's not going to be endorsing her, according to your sources?
Now, according to my sources, he will say very nice things about her. They do not want what some of my sources have been calling a Kamala coronation, that the problem, in part, that they found themselves in was that President Biden was not seriously challenged for the nomination. I'm told by some of her people, I don't know that the vice president thinks this, but some of her people believe she will win this, that she'll choose a strong running mate, that she does have the support of many of the delegates who are Biden-Harris delegates, and that she can win this basically on her own. And at least one of her allies said to me, this is better. Better to not be anointed by Joe Biden, better to show independence, better to show with a strong ticket the capacity to win the nomination on her own.
Again, that's reporting from Mark Halperin. You've probably seen him on the documentary series The Circus on Showtime, and before going to Newsmax. And very, very big deal here, right? The President of the United States is stepping down. Why? I would suspect that a lot of pressure, a little bit of blackmailing. It is politics, after all. And people saying, look, you got to go. You got to go. You got, like J.D. Vance last night. Joe's got to go. Joe's got to go. I'm pretty sure it had something, had a ring to it like that. Anyway, right now at the RNC, taking the stage is Dana White, saying, nice things about Donaldus Magnus, I'm sure. And this is, again, this information about Joe Biden, I find it to be very interesting, in so much as this is the inevitable, right? I mean, this was, I don't know, 2.5 weeks ago. You had Donald Trump on the golf course, and he was saying then, we took him out. We took him out. And now we're going to have Kamala. And she's even worse. Can't wait to run against her, right? And so it's just, he clearly saw this coming. Listen to this one.
You gave me so much. How did I do with the debate the other night?
Oh, fantastic.
He kicked that old broken down pile of crap.
Yeah.
It's a bad guy. He just quit, He's quitting the race.
Is that right?
Yep, I got him out of the race. And that means we have Kamala. I think she's going to be better. She's so bad. She's so pathetic.
It's so amazing.
It's just so bad. So,
I just can't imagine.
but can you imagine that guy dealing with Putin and the president of China, who's a fierce person? He's a fierce man, a very tough guy. And they see him. They can't. But they just announced he's probably quitting.
Good.
Very good.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You just keep knocking him out, right?
That's it.
And there's Trump doing what he does best. Earlier this evening, I heard, and again, these were people that were golfing on the golf course, friends of his or whatever, not friends of his, right? Just people that were there and decided to talk to him. He treats them very well. Take care, fellas. Blah blah blah. Super personable, right? Because that's Trump at his best. And what I think is interesting is that earlier, one of the speakers at the RNC, and we're going to have a couple of RNC speakers coming up after Trump's speech. So keep it locked right here for all of their opinions. They're on the ground in Wisconsin as well. But one of the speakers was Trump's attorney, Alina Habba. And Alina Habba was giving her speech. And it was a really good speech, by the way. And she said that she was on the phone with Trump, and somebody recognized her from TV and said, hey, you're Trump's lawyer. You tell, on the street, like leaving the courthouse. And he says, you tell Trump that we're praying for him. God bless him. And he heard it, and he said, hey, give the guy the phone. And she gives him the phone, and he talked to the guy, made the guy's day. He was so happy to speak with Trump. And she told that story because the same reason I'm telling you the story, because I feel like that is truly what makes Trump very endearing. He is this caricature that's created in the media, like many people, right? But then you get to know people once you meet somebody, and you say, wow, they're actually so much nicer, and they're actually nothing like this caricature that was created, for them or of them in the media. Something that would rarely happen to me. Right? In radio, you get to know people, right? You get to know me. I'm pretty much the way I am on radio, the way I am in real life, for the most part. I mean, I listen to a little bit more reggaeton and more hip-hop, and I probably joke around a lot more, and I'm a silly goose. But same type of thing. Whereas you're getting me from me, right? Your understanding of me, my personality. However, if this were just TV, let's say, right, where you don't really get to have a conversation with people, you're just kind of reading off of a teleprompter or whatever, you wouldn't really know who I am, right? Do you feel like you know Jen Circleback Psaki? No. You just know this caricature of her that's created, from seeing her on television. Anyway, the point I make is when people get to know Trump, they fall in love with Trump. Trump's a very personable guy. He's very endearing. So I think that's one of his superpowers, and that's what he does when he gives these speeches. Now, Trump is coming up straight ahead, so keep it locked right here. We're bringing you live coverage of the speech. We're going to carry the speech in its entirety. He should be up relatively soon, so if he's... Yeah, just keep it right here. Don't go anywhere. You're not going to miss anything. Don't move a muscle. Rich Valdez, America at Night. Donald Trump at the RNC. Live speech coming up right now.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. Donald Trump has taken the stage. He has not started yet. He's come out. There is a fireman's coat and helmet on the stage to his right. Lee Greenwood is still performing God Bless the USA. And he's doing his traditional Trump clap, the golf clap that he does. He's making his way to the podium. He's about to begin the acceptance speech to accept the Republican nomination for President of these United States, El Trompito, Donaldus Magnus, Donald J. Trump, the 45th president. He's at the stage, and let me tell you, what a standing ovation he's getting.
Thank you very much.
Donald Trump.
Thank you very, very much. Wow. And thank you, Dana. Thank you, Kid Rock, sometimes referred to as Bob. And thank you, Lee, right from the beginning. Thank you very much. What a talent. What a beautiful, beautiful soul. Thank you. Friends, delegates, and fellow citizens, I stand before you this evening with a message of confidence, strength, and hope. 4 months from now, we will have an incredible victory, and we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. Together, we will launch a new era of safety, prosperity, and freedom for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. The discord and division in our society must be healed. We must heal it quickly. As Americans, we are bound together by a single fate and a shared destiny. We rise together or we fall apart. I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America. So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we will do it right. We're going to do it right. Let me begin this evening by expressing my gratitude to the American people for your outpouring of love and support following the assassination attempt at my rally on Saturday. As you already know, the assassin's bullet came within a quarter of an inch of taking my life. So many people have asked me, what happened? Tell us what happened, please. And therefore, I will tell you exactly what happened, and you'll never hear it from me a second time because it's actually too painful to tell. It was a warm, beautiful day in the early evening in Butler Township in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Music was loudly playing, and the campaign was doing really well. I went to the stage, and the crowd was cheering wildly. Everybody was happy. I began speaking very strongly, powerfully, and happily because I was discussing the great job my administration did on immigration at the southern border. We were very proud of it. Behind me and to the right was a large screen that was displaying a chart of border crossings under my leadership. The numbers were absolutely amazing. In order to see the chart, I started to, like this, turn to my right and was ready to begin a little bit further turn, which I'm very lucky I didn't do. when I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear. I said to myself, wow, what was that? It can only be a bullet. And moved my right hand to my ear, brought it down. My hand was covered with blood, just absolutely blood all over the place. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. Bullets were continuing to fly as very brave Secret Service agents rushed to the stage, and they really did. They rushed to the stage. These are great people at great risk, I will tell you, and pounced on top of me so that I would be protected. There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that. The amazing thing is that prior to the shot, if I had not moved my head at that very last instant, the assassin's bullet would have perfectly hit its mark, and I would not be here tonight. We would not be together. The most incredible aspect of what took place on that terrible evening in the fading sun was actually seen later. In almost all cases, as you probably know, and when even a single bullet is fired, just a single bullet, and we had many bullets that were being fired, crowds run for the exits or stampede, but not in this case. It's very unusual. This massive crowd of tens of thousands of people stood by and didn't move an inch. In fact, many of them bravely, but automatically stood up looking for where the sniper would be. They knew immediately it was a sniper, and then began pointing at him. You can see that if you look at the group behind me. That was just a small group compared to what was in front. Nobody ran, and by not stampeding, many lives were saved. But that isn't the reason that they didn't move. The reason is that they knew I was in very serious trouble. They saw it. They saw me go down. They saw the blood and thought, actually most did, that I was dead. They knew it was a shot to the head. They saw the blood. And there's an interesting statistic. The ears are the bloodiest part. If something happens with the ears, they bleed more than any other part of the body. For whatever reason, the doctors told me that. I said, why is there so much blood? He said, it's the ears. They bleed more. So we learned something, but they just, this beautiful crowd, they didn't want to leave me. They knew I was in trouble. They didn't want to leave me. And you can see that love written all over their faces. Incredible people. They're incredible people. Bullets were flying over us, yet I felt serene. But now the Secret Service agents were putting themselves in peril. They were in very dangerous territory. Bullets were flying right over them, missing them by a very small amount of inches. And then it all stopped. Our Secret Service sniper, from a much greater distance and with only one bullet used, took the assassin's life, took him out.
President Trump recounting the story of his assassination just days ago. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America. This is Night. This is Rich Valdez.
All right, familia, welcome back. And we continue with Donaldus Magnus El Trumpito, the 45th president of these United States, Donald J. Trump, in his acceptance speech at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
In watching the reports over the last few days, many people say it was a providential moment. Probably was. When I rose surrounded by Secret Service, the crowd was confused because they thought I was dead, and there was great, great sorrow. I could see that on their faces as I looked out. They didn't know I was looking out. They thought it was over. But I could see it, and I wanted to do something to let them know I was okay. I raised my right arm, looked at the thousands and thousands of people that were breathlessly waiting, and started shouting, "Fight, fight, fight." Thank you. Once my clenched fist went up, and it was high into the air. You've all seen that. The crowd realized I was okay and roared with pride for our country like no crowd I have ever heard before. Never heard anything like it. For the rest of my life, I will be grateful for the love shown by that giant audience of patriots that stood bravely on that fateful evening in Pennsylvania. Tragically, the shooter claimed the life of one of our fellow Americans, Corey, comparator, unbelievable person, everybody tells me. Unbelievable. And seriously wounded. Two other great warriors, spoke to them today. David Dutch and James Copenhaver, two great people. I also spoke to all three families of these tremendous people. Our love and prayers are with them, and always will be. We're never going to forget them. They came for a great rally. They were serious Trumpsters, I want to tell you. They were serious Trumpsters, and still are. But Corey, unfortunately, we have to use the past tense. He was incredible. He was a highly respected former fire chief, respected by everybody. Was accompanied by his wife, Helen, incredible woman. I spoke to her today, devastated, and two precious daughters. He lost his life selflessly acting as a human shield to protect them from flying bullets. He went right over the top of them and was hit. What a fine man he was.
Donald Trump embracing the fire jacket and the fire helmet that is on stage with him. The crowd is just going wild.
I want to thank the fire department and the family for sending his helmet, his outfit, and it was just something, and they're going to do something very special when they get it. But we did something which cannot match what happened, not even close. But I am very proud to say that over the past few days, we've raised $6.3 million for the families of David, James, and Corey, including from a friend of mine just called up. He sent me a check right here. I just got it. $1 million. From Dan Newland. Thank you, Dan. And again, when speaking to the family, I told them, I said, well, I'm going to be sending you a lot of money, but it can't compensate. They all said the same thing. You're right, sir. We appreciate so much what you're doing, but nothing can take the place in the case of Corey. And the other two, by the way, they were very, very seriously injured, but now they're doing very well. They're going to be okay. They're going to be doing very well.
We continue our coverage of the RNC live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. We resume our coverage of the RNC, the acceptance speech of Donaldus Magnus El Trompito, the 45th president of these United States, accepting the nomination to become the 47th president of the United States, live from Milwaukee.
Very far away. I won't tell you where, but very, very far away. Beautiful place. And my people called, and he said, yeah, I won't be able to do it. This is many, many years. I promised my wife I can't do it. And they came in, they said, Dana won't be able to do it because he was my first, second, and third choice. I said, well, you know, that's too bad, but I understand he's away, and it's good. It's good for him. And that was it. About 30 minutes later, she came back in, sir, Dana just called. He's going to do it. And his wife, she said, you can't turn him down. You just can't do it. You have to go. That's a good wife. So he got on a plane. He got here a little while ago. Now he's going to get on the plane in a little while, and he's going to go back home to his wife. But they're great, and I just want to thank her and him and their whole family, because that's not easy. And Kid Rock, same thing. Called, he said, I want to be a part of it. I want to be a part, because, you know, Kid does his great song, Big, Big Monster song. I had no idea. You know, he became a friend of mine over the last 10 years. And he's amazing. Everyone loves him. I didn't even know how big he was. You know, he has rallies, 35, 40,000 people he gets every time he goes out. I think he's making so much money, he doesn't know what the hell to do with it. You want to know? And then we have my other friend, and I've known him so long, and we took that song, and it was a big success, but we made that. I saw a chart of great songs to America. That was #1 on the chart recently, #1. So that's Lee Greenwood, a very special, beautiful person. He's a beautiful man. But they all wanted to be here. They called. And how about the Hulkster? How good was he? Is he up? Where is he? Boy, oh,
That
boy.
Hulk Hogan part, let me tell you, this Hulk Hogan was phenomenal. He went out there and did his traditional Hulkamania T-shirt shredding, and he had a Trump Vance 2024 shirt on under his T-shirt that he had on, and it was really just iconic Hulk Hogan. If you're 80s, 70s, and you know Hulk Hogan like I do, you enjoyed that moment. I'm like a kid in a candy store watching this show. Anyway, folks, we're coming right back with the rest of Donald Trump's speech live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, accepting the Republican nomination for President of the United States. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. If you want to give us a call, you know the number, 833-4-VALDEZ. And we're continuing our live coverage of what's going on in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We resume with President Donald Trump laying out his vision for America.
Lots of different things. We'll start paying off debt and start lowering taxes even further. We gave you the largest tax cut. We'll do it more. You know, people don't realize I brought taxes way down, way down, and yet we took in more revenues the following year than we did when the tax rate was much higher. Most people said, how did you do that? Because it was incentive. Everybody was coming to the country. They were bringing back billions and billions of dollars into our country. The companies made it impossible to bring it back. The tax rate was too high, and the legal complications were far too great. I changed both of them, and hundreds of billions of dollars by Apple and so many other companies were brought back into our nation, and we had an economy the likes of which no nation had ever seen. China, we were beating them at levels that were incredible. And they know it. They know it. We'll do it again, but we'll do it even better. I will end the illegal immigration crisis by closing our border and finishing the wall, most of which I've already built. On the wall, we were dealing with a very difficult Congress, and I said, oh, that's okay, we won't go to Congress. I call it an invasion. We gave our military almost $800 billion. I said, I'm going to take a little of that money because this is an invasion, and we built, most of the wall is already built, and we built it through using the funds because what's better than that? We have to stop the invasion into our country that's killing hundreds of thousands of people a year. We're not going to let that happen. I will end every single international crisis that the current administration has created, including the horrible war with Russia and Ukraine, which would have never happened if I was president, and the war caused by the attack on Israel, which would have never happened if I was president. Iran was broke. Iran had no money. Now Iran has $250 billion. They made it all over the last 2.5 years. They were broke. I watched the other day on a show called Deface the Nation. Has anyone seen it? And they had a congressman who was a Democrat say, well, whether you like him or not, Iran was broke dealing with Trump. I told China and other countries, if you buy from Iran, we will not let you do any business in this country, and we will put tariffs on every product you do send in of 100% or more. And they said to me, well, I think that's about it. They weren't going to buy any oil. And they were ready to make a deal. Iran was going to make a deal with us. And then we had that horrible, horrible result that we'll never let happen again. The election result, we're never going to let that happen again. They used COVID to cheat. We're never going to let it happen again. And they took off all the sanctions, and they did everything possible for Iran. And now Iran is very close to having a nuclear weapon, which would have never happened. This is a shame what this administration, the damage that this administration has done. And I say it often, if you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States, think of it, the 10 worst, added them up, they will not have done the damage that Biden has done. I'm only going to use the term once. Biden. I'm not going to use the name anymore, just one time. The damage that he's done to this country is unthinkable. It's unthinkable. Together we will restore vision, strength, competence, and we're going to have a thing called common sense making most of our decisions, actually. It's all common sense. Just a few short years ago, under my presidency, we had the most secure border and best economy in the history of our country, in the history of the world. We had the greatest economy in the history of the world. We had never done anything like it. We were beating every country, including China, by leaps and bounds. Nobody had seen anything like it. We had no inflation, soaring incomes were going. Nobody's Nobody can believe it. You can't believe what happened 4 years ago is happening now in reverse. And the world was at peace. Inflation has been a killer for our country. No matter what you make it, it doesn't matter because inflation is eating you alive. People that were putting away money, they were making great wages, the highest they've ever made, but they were putting away a lot of money. Now they are just being destroyed. They're not putting away anything. They're barely living. They're going into savings accounts. They're taking out their money to live because of inflation. Inflation, remember, it's called a country buster. You can go back to Germany from 100 years ago. You can go back to any country that suffered great inflation. We've suffered the worst inflation we've ever had. But go back and see what's happened to those countries. We've had the worst inflation we've ever had under this person. But in less than 4 years, our opponents have turned incredible success into unparalleled tragedy and failure. It's been a tremendous failure. Today, our cities are flooded with illegal aliens. Americans are being squeezed out of the labor force and their jobs are taken. And by the way, you know who's taking the jobs that are created? 107% of those jobs are taken by illegal aliens. And you know who's being hurt the most by millions of people pouring into our country? The black population and the Hispanic population, because they're taking the jobs from our black population, our Hispanic population, and they're also taking them from unions. The unions are suffering because of it. Thank you. Thank you. I like you too. Thank you very much. Inflation has wiped out the life savings of our citizens and forced the middle class into a state of depression and despair. That's what it is. It's despair and depression. We cannot and will not let this continue. Less than 4 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again. We're going to be a great nation again. Thank you.
Folks, we continue our coverage of the RNC acceptance speech of Donald Trump straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our coverage of Donald Trump's acceptance speech at the RNC in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Listen to this.
You can't get the money anywhere. You can't buy houses. Young people can't get any financing to buy a house. The total household costs have increased an average of $28,000 per family under this administration. Republicans have a plan to bring down prices and bring them down very, very rapidly. By slashing energy costs, we will in turn reduce the cost of transportation, manufacturing, and all household goods. So much starts with energy. And remember, we have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country by far. We are a nation that has the opportunity to make an absolute fortune with its energy. We have it, and China doesn't. Under the Trump administration, just 3.5 years ago, we were energy independent, but soon we will actually be better than that. We will be energy dominant and supply not only ourselves, but we will supply the rest of the world with numbers that nobody has ever seen, and we will reduce our debt, $36 trillion. We will start reducing that, and we will also reduce your taxes still further. Next, and by the way, they want to raise your taxes 4 times, think of it. And all my life I grew up watching politicians. I always loved politics. I guess I was on the other side. I'd watch and they were always talking about, we will give you a tax cut. We will give you a tax cut. My whole life I was watching, I will give you a tax cut, right, Mr. Congressman? That's all they talked about. This is the only administration that said, we're going to raise your taxes by 4 times what you're paying now, and people are supposed to vote for them? I've never heard it. You're paying too much. We're going to reduce your taxes still further. We gave you the biggest one, as I said. We're going to give you more, and it's going to lead to tremendous growth. We want growth in our country. That's what's going to pay off our debt. And next, we will end the ridiculous and actually incredible waste of taxpayer dollars that is fueling the inflation crisis. They spent trillions of dollars on things having to do with the Green New Scam. It's a scam. And that's caused tremendous inflationary pressures in addition to the cost of energy. And all of the trillions of dollars that are sitting there not yet spent, we will redirect that money for important projects like roads, bridges, dams, and we will not allow it to be spent on meaningless Green New Scam ideas. And I will end the electric vehicle mandate on day one. Thereby saving the U.S. auto industry from complete obliteration, which is happening right now, and saving U.S. customers thousands and thousands of dollars per car. And right now, as we speak, large factories just started are being built across the border in Mexico. So with all the other things happening on our border, and they're being built by China to make cars and to sell them into our country, no tax, no anything. The United Auto Workers ought to be ashamed for allowing this to happen. And the leader of the United Auto Workers should be fired immediately. And every single auto worker, union and non-union, should be voting for Donald Trump, because we're going to bring back car manufacturing, and we're going to bring it back fast. They're building some of the largest auto plants anywhere in the world. Think of it, in the world. We're going to bring it back. We're going to make them. We don't mind that happening, but those plants are going to be built in the United States, and our people are going to man those plants. And if they don't agree with us, we'll put a tariff of approximately 100 to 200% on each car, and they will be unsellable in the United States. We have long been taken advantage of by other countries. And think of it, oftentimes these other countries are considered so-called allies. They've taken advantage of us for years. We lose jobs, we lose revenue, and they gain everything and wipe out our businesses, wipe out our people. I stopped it for 4 years. I stopped it. And we're really ready to make changes like nobody had seen before. And remember, USMCA, I got rid of NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made, and replaced it with USMCA, which is, they say, the best trade deal ever made. Actually, probably the best trade deal was the deal I made with China, where they buy $50 billion worth of our product. They were buying nothing. They buy $50 billion worth. They had to. But I don't even talk about it because of COVID. I don't even mention it, frankly, because of what happened with the China virus. We will not let countries come in, take our jobs, and plunder our nation. They come and do that. They plunder our nation. The way they will sell their product in America is to build it in America. Very simple. Build it in America and only in America. And this very simple formula, and Congress has to go along with us, and they will. This very simple formula will create massive numbers of jobs. We will take over the auto industry again, and many, many, hundreds of thousands of jobs. We lost so many jobs over the years. If you go back 20, 25 years, they've stolen, going to China and Mexico, about 68% of our auto industry manufacturing jobs. We're going to get them all back. We're going to get them all back, every one of them. At the center of our plan for economic relief are massive tax cuts for workers that include something else that's turned out to be very popular, actually. Here it's very popular in this building and all those hotels that I saw that are so nice. I'm staying in a nice one. It's called no tax on tips. No tax on tips. No tax on tips. I got that by having dinner recently in Nevada, where we're leading by about 14 points. Hello. I'll see you there very soon, everybody. And we're having dinner at a beautiful restaurant in the Trump building on the Strip, and it's a great building, and the waitress comes over. How's everything going? A really nice person. How's everything? Oh, sir, it's so tough. The government's after me all the time on tips, tips, tips. I said, well, they give you cash. Would they be able to find him? She said, actually, and I didn't know this, she said, very little cash is given. It's all put right on the check. And they come in and they take so much of our money, it's just ridiculous. And they don't believe anything we say. And they've just hired, as you know, 88,000 agents to go after him even more. And I said, this shows the level of my, most people go out, they hire consultants, they pay them millions of dollars. But I said to her, let me just ask you a question. Would you be happy if you had no tax on tips? She said, what a great idea. I got my information from a very smart waitress. That's better than spending millions of dollars. And everybody loves it. Waitresses and caddies and drivers and everybody. It's a large group of people that are being really hurt badly. They make money, let them keep their money. I'm going to protect Social Security and Medicare. Democrats are going to destroy Social Security and Medicare because all of these people, by the millions they're coming in, they're going to be on Social Security and Medicare and other things, and you're not able to afford it. They are destroying your Social Security and your Medicare. Under my plan, incomes will skyrocket, inflation will vanish completely, jobs will come roaring back, and the middle class will prosper like never, ever before, and we're going to do it very rapidly.
Like never before. We're going to do it very quickly, huge, bigly, folks. Folks, we're listening to Donald Trump, his acceptance speech. It's about to wrap up shortly. We're giving you live coverage of that. Plus, we have your calls and some analysis from folks that are on the ground. Don't go anywhere. It's Rich Valdez, America at Night, live coverage, special coverage of the RNC in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our coverage of Donald Trump and his nominating convention speech, accepting the Republican nomination for President of the United States to become the 47th President of the United States. Listen to this.
I said, you got to see this chart. I was so proud of it, and by the time I got to there, I never got to see it that day. But I'm seeing it now, and I was very proud. If you look at the arrow on the bottom, that's the lowest level, the one on the bottom, heavy red arrow. That's the lowest level of illegal immigrants ever to come into our country in recorded history, right there. Right there. And that was my last week in office. And then you see what happened after I left. Look at the rest. And if you go out a little bit further, it's getting to be a little bit old, but I love it anyway, right? But you can go much higher with those numbers. Look what happened right after that. The invasion began. We had the opposite. We stopped the invasion, but the invasion that we stopped was peanuts by comparison to what happened after I left. Look at what happened after I left. They took over our country. We ended all catch and release. We shut down asylum fraud. We stopped human trafficking and forged historic agreements to keep illegal aliens on foreign soil. We want them to stay on their soil. Under the Trump administration, if you came in illegally, you were apprehended immediately and you were deported. You went right back. The current administration terminated every single one of those great Trump policies that I put in place to seal the border. I wanted a sealed border. Again, come in, but come in legally. You know how unfair it is? So many people, hundreds of thousands of people, have been working for years to come into our country. And now they see these people pour into our country at levels that are unprecedented, so unfair. And we're not going to do it. We're not going to stand for it. They suspended wall construction, ended remain in Mexico. We had a policy, remain in Mexico. You think that was easy to get from the Mexican government? But I said, you must give it to us. If you don't give it to us, there will be repercussions. And they gave it to us, but not easy. Canceled our Safe Third agreements, demolished Title 42, implemented nationwide catch and release. That's catch and release, where we catch them and release them into our country. We catch them and release them into Mexico. There's a slight difference. And took 93, this is the previous administration, 93 executive actions to throw open our border to the world. The entire world is pouring into our country because of this very foolish administration. The greatest invasion in history is taking place right here in our country. They are coming in from every corner of the earth, not just from South America, but from Africa, Asia, the Middle East. They're coming from everywhere. They're coming at levels that we've never seen before. It is an invasion indeed, and this administration does absolutely nothing to stop them. They're coming from prisons. They're coming from jails. They're coming from mental institutions and insane asylums. You know, the press is always on me because I say this. Has anyone seen Silence of the Lambs? The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He'd love to have you for dinner. That's insane asylums. They're emptying out their insane asylums. And terrorists are coming in at numbers that we've never seen before. Bad things are going to happen. Meanwhile, our crime rate is going up, while crime statistics all over the world are going down, because they're taking their criminals and they're putting them into our country. A certain country, and I happen to like the president of that country very much, but he's been getting great publicity because he's a wonderful shepherd of the country. He says how well the country's doing because their crime rate is down. And he said he's training all of these rough people. They're rough. He's training them. And I've been reading about this for 2 years. I think, oh, that's wonderful. Let's take a look at it. But then I realized he's not training them. He's sending all of his criminals, his drug dealers, his people that are in jails, he's sending them all to the United States. And he's different in that he doesn't say that. He's trying to convince everybody what a wonderful job he does in running the country. Well, he doesn't do a wonderful job. And by the way, if I ran one of the countries, many countries from all over, I would be worse than any of them. I would have had the place totally emptied out already. But we become a dumping ground for the rest of the world, which is laughing at us. They think we're stupid. And they can't believe that they're getting away with what they're getting away with, but they're not going to be getting away with it for long. That's what I can tell you. In Venezuela, Caracas, high crime. Caracas, Venezuela, really a dangerous place, but not anymore. Because in Venezuela, crime is down 72%. In fact, if they would ever win this election, I hate to even say that, we will have our next Republican convention in Venezuela because it will be safe. Our cities will be so unsafe, we will not be able to have it there. In El Salvador, murders are down by 70%. Why are they down? Now, he would have you convinced that because he's trained murderers to be wonderful people. No. They're down because they're sending their murderers to the United States of America. This is going to be very bad. And bad things are going to happen, and you're seeing it happen all the time. That's why, to keep our families safe, the Republican platform promises to launch the largest deportation operation in the history of our country. Even larger than that of President Dwight D. Eisenhower from many years ago. You know, he was a moderate, but he believed very strongly in borders. He had the largest deportation operation we've ever had. Just recently, I spoke to the grieving mother of Jocelyn Nungary, a wonderful woman, a precious 12-year-old girl from Houston who last month was tied up, assaulted, and strangled to death after walking to the convenience store just a block away from her house. Her body was dumped near the side of the road in a shallow creek, found by some onlookers who couldn't believe what they had witnessed. Charged with Jocelyn's heinous murder are 2 illegal aliens from Venezuela who came across our border, were in custody, and were then released into the country by this horrible, horrible administration that we have right now. I also met recently with the heartbroken mother and sister of Rachel Morin. Rachel was a 37-year-old mom of 5 beautiful children who was brutally raped and murdered while out on a run. She wanted to keep herself in good shape. It was very important to her. She was murdered. The monster responsible first killed another woman in El Salvador before he was led into America by the White House. This White House let them in. He then attacked a 9-year-old girl and her mother in a home invasion in Los Angeles before murdering Rachel in Maryland. Traveled all throughout the country, doing tremendous damage. Rachel's mother will never be the same. I spent time with her. She will never be the same. I've also met with the wonderful family of Laken Riley, the brilliant 22-year-old nursing student. She was so proud of being first in her class, who was out for a jog on the campus of the University of Georgia when she was assaulted, beaten, and horrifically killed. Yet another American life was stolen by a criminal alien set free by this administration. And these were incredible people we're talking about. These were incredible people who died. Tonight, America, this is my vow. I will not let these killers and criminals into our country.
President Trump making a promise to address immigration head on should he win the next election, which seems probable, at least by many polls that are coming out in the recent days. Folks, we continue with President Trump and then some analysis, plus your calls, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And President Trump is addressing his accolades on foreign policy, saying he is not a braggart, but seems to be bragging about a pretty solid foreign policy record that he's got under the belt. Let's continue with President Trump accepting the Republican nomination at the RNC convention in Wisconsin.
Face explosions, horrifically wounded. And by the way, we have a man in this room who's running for the U.S. Senate from a great state, Nevada, named Sam Brown, who paid the ultimate price. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. He paid the biggest price probably ever paid by anybody that is running for office, and I think he's going to do great. He's running against a person that is not good, not respected, a total lightweight. But Sam, I think, paid, really, we were talking about it with some of the senators that are working so hard for Sam, but he paid the biggest price of any senator ever to run for the Senate. I don't think anybody's ever what he did. He was a real hero, a really great person, and he's running, and I hope that everybody gets out and votes for Sam Brown. And we also left behind $85 billion worth of military equipment, along with many American citizens were left behind. Many, many American citizens, emboldened by that disaster, Russia invaded Ukraine. They saw this group of people that were incompetent. We took the soldiers out first. No, we're going to take the soldiers out second. If they would have followed my plan, we had a great plan. But the plan only kicked in if they did everything perfectly, and they weren't doing things perfectly, so we said it doesn't kick in. 18 months in Afghanistan, we didn't have one, so they were killing them left and right, snipers. And I spoke to the head of the Taliban. You've heard this story. Abdul, still there, still the head of the Taliban. The press got on me, why would you speak to him? I said, because that's where the killing is. I don't have to speak to somebody that has nothing to do with it. And I told him, don't ever do that. Don't ever do that again. Don't ever, ever do that again. You've got to stop. Because during the Obama administration, many great people and soldiers, but a lot of soldiers were being killed from long distance. I said, if you keep doing that, you're going to be hit harder than anybody's ever been hit by a country before. And he said, I understand, Your Excellency. He called me Your Excellency. I wonder if he calls the other guy Your Excellency. I doubt it. The other guy gave him everything. I mean, what kind of a deal was that? He walked out, gave him everything. Do you know that right now Afghanistan is one of the largest sellers of weapons in the world? They're selling the brand new, beautiful weapons that we gave them. But think of it, he actually said to me, but why do you show me a picture of my home? I said, you'll have to ask your people or one of your wives. But he could figure it out. And for 18 months, we had not one attack on an American soldier by the Taliban. 18 months. And then we had that horrible day where soldiers were killed. I was not there because of a ridiculous election. But we had that horrible attack. And they also gave up Bagram, one of the biggest bases anywhere in the world, air bases anywhere in the world, the longest runways, most powerful, hardened, thickened runways. We gave it up. And I liked it not because of Afghanistan. I liked it because of China. It's 1 hour away from where China makes their nuclear weapons. And you know who has it now? China has it now. We were keeping that. And now China is likewise circling Taiwan, and Russian warships and nuclear submarines are operating 60 miles off the coast in Cuba. Do you know that? No, the press refuses to write about it. If that were me running this country and we had nuclear submarines in Cuba, I will tell you that the headlines every day would be, what's wrong with our president? You don't even hear this. You're not hearing about this. Russia has nuclear submarines and warships 60 miles away, Mr. Congressman, from Miami, by the way, happens to be here. Correct? In Cuba. And that would not be stood for if it were somebody else. They don't want to mention it, but now maybe they will. And the entire world, I tell you this, we want our hostages back, and they better be back before I assume office, or you will be paying a very big price. With our victory in November, the years of war, weakness, and chaos will be over. I don't have wars. I had no wars other than ISIS, which I defeated, but that was a war that was started. We had no wars. I could stop wars with a telephone call. I could stop wars with just a telephone call.
He can stop wars with a telephone call. He can dodge bullets with a single ear. Donaldus Magnus El Trompito, God bless him, continuing his speech. Folks, we're going to get to your calls and more. Trump's about to wrap up. I could see he's getting into that mode where he wraps things up. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, we coming back in, dipping into the Trump speech, coming right back for the third hour. We will be getting to your calls. We have some of our folks offering analysis standing by, awaiting the finale of Trump's acceptance speech.
AI needs literally twice the electricity that's available now in our country. Can you imagine? But instead, we're spending places where they recharge electric cars. They built 8 chargers at a certain location toward the Midwest. 8 chargers for $9 billion. Think of them as a tank for filling up your gas. Think of it. They spent $9 billion on 8 chargers, 3 of which didn't work. And if you were going to do this all over our country, this crazy electric mandate, if you're going to do this all, and by the way, I'm all for electric. They have their application. But if somebody wants to buy a gas-powered car, gasoline-powered car, or a hybrid, they're going to be able to do it. And we're going to make that change on day 1. So to conclude, just a few short days ago, my journey with you nearly ended. We know that. And yet, here we are tonight, all gathered together, talking about the future, promise, and a total renewal of a thing we love very much. It's called America. We live in a world of miracles. None of us knows God's plan or where life's adventure will take us. I want to thank Franklin Graham for being here tonight. He's an outstanding man. He wrote me a note recently. I have a lot of respect for him. Sir, I love your storytelling. I think it's great in front of these big rallies. But, sir, please do me one favor. It won't make any difference. Please don't use any foul language. I was a little embarrassed. I said... He said
Donald
it won't
Trump
make any difference.
pledging to make healthcare great again, right? Making medical innovation great again, thanking members and delegates, attendees of the convention. And we're going to continue with him straight ahead. He's very close to wrapping up. We've got analysis and your calls standing by. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo, keeping you company straight till 1 a.m. Eastern Time, and we're wrapping up our coverage of the Republican National Convention, the nominating convention for the 47th President of the United States, who happens to be the 45th President of the United States. I like to call him El Trompito Donaldus Magnus And he did accept that nomination today after the delegates pledged their votes. One of those, every state, right? All 50 states and several territories were pledging their votes. Listen to this.
We will now continue with the roll call of the states. Puerto Rico, 23 delegates.
Madam Chairman, I'm Angel Cintron, State Chairman for the Republican Party of Puerto Rico. The great 51st Republican State of the Union, Puerto Rico, the shining star of the Caribbean, brothers and sisters of Florida, Texas, California, New York, and all the states, proudly cast all of our 23 votes for our next President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Pursuant to the announcement of the delegation and the rules and procedures of this convention, Puerto Rico, 23 votes, Donald Trump, President Trump.
And there you have it, as the delegates pledge, and that happened to be the delegation from Puerto Rico pledging their votes. So big shout out to the Republicans in Puerto Rico. Shout out to my Boricuas. And of course, Donald Trump taking the stage just about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, beginning his speech, a very lengthy speech, a very involved speech. It included policy and humor and some touching moments where he recounted the assassination attempt on his life, talking about how our expectations are not big enough and how, as Americans, greatness is our birthright. And he took to the stage to accept the nomination.
So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you.
Now, something else that President Trump mentioned before wrapping up the speech, which he did moments ago, right now, him and the First Family are all on stage. Balloons are flying everywhere. For those of you who aren't tuned in on television or are in your cars working late night shifts, that's what's going on. It seems to be a very jubilant, very joyous celebration that's going on. But some of the things Trump talked about, enjoying the ride as we make America great again. He talked about, again, the expectations of the American people not being big enough. And he also talked about the birthright of Americans, on how greatness is our birthright. And he also went into something that I thought was really, really, really interesting. He focused on unity. And as he focused on unity, he said, we're going to be more united than ever before. And I thought, that's the type of the tone that you want to strike. And very conciliatory, right? He also wrapped up his speech with some final remarks. Listen to this.
And quite simply put, we will very quickly make America great again. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Wisconsin. God bless you. God bless you, Wisconsin, and God bless the United States of America, our great country. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
So that's President Trump wrapping up the speech accepting the nomination for president. And I want to go to Michelle Schurman. She's vice president of the National Federation of Republican Women. She's on the ground in Wisconsin. Michelle, welcome.
Thank you. Great night.
Tell us what's it like on the ground there in Milwaukee?
It is exciting. I'm just coming out, and I tell you what, we are invigorated. We're ready to get Trump a second term, and that was a brilliant speech. Really exactly what we needed. We're ready to go. We're ready to win this one.
What's the energy like in the room?
It was, it was a different energy. It had moments where, especially at the beginning, it was very touching. He was very genuine about what had happened to him. It was very heartfelt. It was nice to have more feeling of family. We certainly are united in ways that we haven't been before. So in that way, it was great. I loved hearing all the policy, the things he is going to change, the things we're going to return to. So it was really a mix of heartfelt energy, exactly what our delegates need to go back to our states and get this man reelected.
Something that I noticed, the president said that he was not going to repeat this story of his own account of the assassination attempt, but he really went into detail about it. What was it like, again, being there in the room, being on the ground in Milwaukee, Wisconsin? What did you feel, in the room in those moments?
As strange as it sounds, the thousands of people that are here, it felt like he was telling me individually what happened to him. It felt honest. It felt true. It felt like he needed to get it off his chest, and that it was painful and something that he didn't want to have to talk about again, but needed to be said. It was a poignant moment, and it was something that I really respect seeing in Mr. Trump, because sometimes, he can appear brass and sassy, but this really showed us his heart and how this incident affected him and really changed him. And I felt like the room understood that. We were changed by it, and now we go forward a lot even more fiercely than before to get him reelected.
And Michelle Schurman, Vice President, National Federation of Republican Women, on the ground in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And there was I agree with you. There was a few things he said where I thought, man, this is not your typical Trump rally speech. It's not your typical even State of the Union type speech. It was a very different speech because it was a very measured Trump, a very reflective Trump. The speech seemed to have come from a very sincere place of humility. And there were a couple of moments where I thought, man, this is interesting that he went there in this speech. And the two areas were, three, right? He said, our expectations aren't high enough. And two of the things that he mentioned, I thought, if that's our expectation, man, that's high. One of them was, he said, we're going to make all sorts of cars in America, which we do make some cars in America, but I honestly don't think we're going to make more cars in America, but President Trump does, which I think is interesting. And B, he talked about how we're so close to getting a cure for cancer, which is, fantastic news. But again, just bold pronouncements, because I know I made fun of Biden when he said that. When he said, we're going to cure cancer, I said, oh, come on. You can't sit there. That's like quintessential politician stuff. And Trump seemed sincere when he said it. But again, I'm from the same place, and I love Trump. I don't know how we make a pronouncement like, at least he was more measured in it, saying, we're getting closer to getting there. But what were your thoughts on hearing that? Did it come across as like political rhetoric, or do you think it was coming from maybe he knows something we don't?
I think maybe he knows something we don't. He mentioned right to try with medications. I think he knows we have such brilliance among our physicians and our medical field. And I sometimes think maybe there are things we don't know, things they're not allowed to do, allowed to try that that this administration under Mr. Trump will be able to do. So I don't think he was just telling us something to get a vote. I think he honestly knows something, that we're closer to it than we may realize, but we've got to get focused on it. And I think that he will do that. Every one of us has someone in our lives, multiple people in our families who've been affected by cancer. So I think he knows something we don't know, and I hope we know it sooner rather than later, and I hope we focus our energies and our funding on that, because that, again, how many of our citizens do we lose every year for cancer? And I think he knows something we don't know. I don't think it was just telling us something for the sake of saying it, right?
Yeah, I would hope. Because he wouldn't be the first politician to say something lofty like that while giving a big speech. Next question for you before we wrap is, you're the vice president of the National Federation of Republican Women. And this election, there's a lot of issues at stake. What do you think is most important to women, and did Trump address it?
I think what's most important to women is that we can keep our households economically sound. We can buy our groceries. We can pay for our gas to get our children where they need to be, and that we're safe. Border security is huge for women. We want to have our finances intact. We want to be able to pay our bills, not on credit. We want to pay them with our hard-earned wages. But we want that border safe because that is a huge concern. I have a daughter going off to college. I sent 2 boys already. But, boy, when you send a daughter, you worry about these things that you hear and that you know are true that happen from the immigrants that come across. I have friends in Texas who tell horrific stories about what's happening at the border. That's what women care about. We want our families fed and safe. And that's why Mr. Trump's our guy.
Yeah, amen to that. Listen, I have 2 daughters, both in college right now, and that's a concern to me as well. Michelle, let everybody know how they could learn more about your work with the National Federation of Republican Women.
We are the largest women's grassroots organization. Go to nfrw.org. We are a grassroots organization. We have small groups. We have state-level administration over, and then we have our national federation located in Alexandria, Virginia. Just click on that site. You can also be an at-large member. We are a grassroots organization who work for candidates to be elected. We don't give them money. We give them our hard-earned time and energy, and we train our women not only to help other people get elected, but to help women get elected, because that's what's going to change this country. Thank you for giving us an opportunity tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us late at night. Michelle Schurman, Vice President of the National Federation of Republican Women. Godspeed.
Godspeed to you. Thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to continue with more analysis from folks on the ground. Of course, your calls and more are coming up next. The phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, so the celebration continues. You've got the first family on stage as the balloons are kind of bouncing around all over the arena. And they're just hanging out, doing their thing. Trump has got his fist pumping in the air. All of the grandkids are there. It's a very large family, the Trump family. And they're there doing their thing, enjoying the music. It looks like a concert, and they're just standing there. People all over the place taking pictures. Really seems like a really, really nice time. I've never seen a Republican convention like this one. Honestly, I typically avoid them because it's typically pretty boring. The speeches are pretty blah, blah, blah. You know what to expect. And that type of thing. This, I got to tell you, it was a little different. And the performance from Kid Rock was something I didn't expect. Even though I've seen him support Trump in the past, definitely something I didn't expect. And we have another guest who's at the Republican National Convention, which just wrapped up, Brilyn Hollyhand. He is the youth chairman for the Republican National Committee. Brilyn, welcome, sir.
Rich, it's an honor. Thanks for having me. I'm currently walking out of the convention hall, and I got to say, that was a speech for the history books.
Yeah, it seems that way. Now, bring us up to speed on your perspective. I know being the youth chairman, I'm guessing that you're a relatively young guy, and you're there to make sure that other young people like you are voting.
Well, that's a great assumption, Rich. I just turned 18 2 weeks ago, so I'm a first-time voter and just wrapped up my very first convention. And I've got to say, it was quite incredible. It was remarkable to see President Trump, less than a week after that attempted assassination, come out triumphant, come out, obviously by the grace of God, and give a speech about unity. Unity is what my generation needs right now. We've seen so much turmoil in the country, and the temperature's gotten too hot in the room, and we really saw President Trump bring that down tonight. He had the opportunity to come out and pull a political stunt like anybody else would have, and nobody would have blamed him for it. He could have come out and blamed that assassination attempt on Joe Biden himself and said that it was the DNC's fault, and instead he took the high road, and he spent his entire hour-and-a-half speech giving a prosperous future for America, and painting that picture is what is going to win over more youth voters. I'm excited to see a flash poll in the morning to see how some votes were swayed from that speech.
All right. Well, it's been 20-some-odd years since I've been 18. But what is the big issue for somebody in your age group to what were you looking to hear tonight, and did you hear it?
Yeah, I would say the economy is obviously the number one issue. I'm hearing that in conversations this week at the convention, and obviously we see that in polling as well. It's hard enough for my parents and grandparents to survive in Joe Biden's economy, Rich, but it's even harder for my generation to get our start in Joe Biden's economy. I've been in Milwaukee for the past 5 days, and every single Uber ride that I've taken to and from the convention site has either been driven by a retiree who's had to come out of retirement to take a job as an Uber driver just to make ends meet in Biden's economy, or a college student having to take out their second or third job just to stay above water in Joe Biden's America. It's a sad state of affairs, but tonight President Trump painted a prosperous future. I was going to set our economy back on track so that I can raise a family in a lot better state than we're in right now.
Brilyn Hollyhand is the chairman of the Republican National Committee Youth Division. And Brilyn, my appreciation goes to you. I'm thankful that you joined us tonight. I'm glad to get your take on everything. And I want you to let everybody know how to follow the work that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. My debut book came out last Tuesday. If your audience is interested in checking that out and seeing how we can get young people involved, they can go to brylynbook.com to get a signed copy, or follow me on all social media platforms. I just appreciate the opportunity, Rich.
You got it, brother. Godspeed to you, my man. Talk soon.
Thank you. Stay safe.
You bet. All right, folks, that concludes the portion of the show where we cover the convention. Now we're going to get to some of the crazy stuff with Biden, who says he's out because he didn't even give a reason. He's yet to give a reason. I think they're pushing him out. Plus your calls, 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't go anywhere. It's Valdez, and we're coming right back.
Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And we're going to be getting to your calls momentarily. I see the calls coming in from Oregon, Tennessee, Ohio, and elsewhere. Some area codes I don't recognize. But the phone number, if you want to join us, now is the time, 833-482-5337. And as you guys know, I don't know that phone number. I say it 100 times a day. I don't know that. I have to look at the little sheet next to me. There's got to be a phenomena about that. Anyway, 833-4-VALDEZ is the number. Looking forward to chatting with you, get your reaction to the Republican National Convention, everything we've discussed. And part of what we're talking about now is the breaking news from earlier today. Joe El Baboso Biden has agreed to step aside. Now, he hasn't made any official statement. So this is all on the reporting of Mark Halperin, who is a political analyst from Newsmax. Now, if you follow politics like I do, you've probably seen him on a show called The Circus on Showtime. And it was the guy with the big hat. I forget his name. I met him once at CPAC. Nice guy, but I forget his name. And there was a woman on the show. Anyway, it was a really good show. A little leaning to the left, no doubt, but a well-produced show about politics. And they covered the 2016 election and subsequent elections. Anyway, so Mark Halperin is with Newsmax TV, and He's very astute in his analysis and his commentary. And he was on with Carl Higbie earlier. I'm going to say, 4 o'clock in the afternoon or so. And here's what they had to say.
According to my sources, President Biden has agreed to step down as the Democratic nominee.
Oh, man.
It will happen as early as this weekend. A speech has been drafted for him. He will continue on as president, is his intention. He also will not, I'm told, endorse Vice President Harris as his successor. They're hoping that he will endorse an open process in which the convention will be open to Vice President Harris and a few other candidates in Chicago to pick the Democratic nominee for president. The belief is that Vice President Harris is already looking at potential running mates to go to Chicago with a full ticket, including one possibility, Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, and perhaps the governor of Pennsylvania, Governor Shapiro. Other possible candidates who are being talked about include Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, perhaps Gretchen Whitmer, and again, the vice president running. On the first ballot, the regular delegates would be allowed to vote under this agreement that's being talked about amongst the president and high-level Democratic officials. The regular delegates would vote on the first ballot. If there is no winner on the first ballot, the so-called super delegates would be allowed to vote on the subsequent ballot.
Again, that's Mark Halperin from Newsmax TV. He even went on to give a timeline for this, right? His sources told him that this is imminent and we could expect it to happen in the next 48 to 72 hours. Listen to this.
This decision was reached, I'm told, all of a sudden because of the high-level pressure from Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, and others, and as well as the decision of many of President Biden's top aides that there was no path forward for him, that he would not be able to win this election, win the general election. And therefore, he's stepping aside again as early as this weekend.
Again, now, former President Barack Obama, this is according to Washington Post, he was telling allies recently that President Biden's path to victory has greatly diminished. That's the quote that they're going with here. And he thinks that President Biden needs to seriously reconsider the viability of his candidacy. And that's according to multiple people that were briefed on Obama's thinking. So I'm guessing Obama, either tells one of his close people, hey, go tell the Washington Post this, or just tells the Washington Post, I'm going to put some pressure on this guy and we're going to use the 25th Amendment if he doesn't budge. You could say what you want. And they come up with this nice little flowery language. Now, according to the Washington Post, Obama's only spoken with Biden once since the disastrous debate where Trump cleaned his clock and mopped the floor with him. And he's been very clear in his conversations with others that the future of Biden's candidacy is a decision for Biden himself to make. However, he emphasized that his concern is protecting Biden and Biden's legacy. And Biden himself is pushing back on this idea, obviously. And Obama pushes back on the idea that he alone can influence Biden's decision-making process. I don't know if I buy that, but maybe. I could see Joe being a stubborn old guy like now, negotiating his exit, where he says, I'll leave, but I'm not endorsing Kamala. Que mala eres. I don't know. Wouldn't he be a great guest to have, right? If she takes his place and be like, our guy's coming up next. We got Joe Biden, and he starts trashing her. That'd be really cool. I wonder if he'll do it. I doubt they'll let him do it. Remember the last radio host who had him on, they ended up getting fired because he said that the campaign was scripting everything. So maybe once he's not in the campaign anymore, maybe he'll be free. Who knows? Anyway, Obama says he sees his role as a sounding board and advisor to former Vice President Biden, who's now the president. And Obama said he thinks that Biden's been a great president and he wants to protect his accomplishments. Who does he think he's fooling? Anyway, he says a lot of this stuff could be in jeopardy if Republicans control the White House and both chambers of Congress next year. And that's their big fear. Power. It's always power. It's always losing power. Anyway, so Obama is the mastermind behind this. He brings in Schumer and Pelosi and the rest of them and Kamala Harris herself to put pressure on him. Now, I could not see them going with another candidate. Everybody thinks Michelle Obama is the secret weapon. I disagree, and I'll be the first one to say it. If, come the Chicago convention and we're getting our updates from Steve Futterman when he's on the ground at the convention, and he says, yep, and they've nominated Michelle Obama, I'll be the first one to tell you, look, I'm eating crow over here. You were right. I was wrong. and I'll bring that guy Gilbert on the show who wrote the whole book on Michelle Obama running. But I don't think that's it. Also, Dick Morris, as much as I love the guy, I don't think he's right in that it's going to be Hillary Clinton. I don't think that's happening either. There's a lot of talk about her having an apparatus and her being, being able to activate her political machinery because she's done this a couple of times already. And I think there's some truth to that. But I don't know if you can necessarily turn things on that quickly. Look at Trump. He left the White House and, in effect, really never got out of the public eye, right? He stayed with his foot on the gas. And that's the type of momentum you need to gain and then keep. And I don't think that Michelle Obama's done that, but for a few books and a podcast and making lots of money with Netflix, I don't think that she's mobilized anything. Clearly, when Obama shows up for Biden, it's not like that's swaying anybody. Biden's still sucking wind in the polls. So anyway, Mark Halperin continued, and I'll give you that when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. No hair, no care, and live on the air, it's Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Mark, what are the political ramifications for a party that based much of their platform on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they're passing right over Kamala Harris, and he's not going to be endorsing her, according to your sources?
Now, according to my sources, he will say very nice things about her. They do not want what some of my sources have been calling a Kamala coronation, that the problem, in part, that they found themselves in was that President Biden was not seriously challenged for the nomination. I'm told by some of her people, I don't know that the vice president thinks this, but some of her people believe she will win this, that she'll choose a strong running mate, that she does have the support of many of the delegates who are Biden-Harris delegates, and that she can win this basically on her own. And at least one of her allies said to me, this is better. Better to not be anointed by Joe Biden, better to show independence, better to show with a strong ticket the capacity to win the nomination on her own.
That is... Again, Mark Halperin, Newsmax TV, giving us the scoop, which is scheduled to become solidified in the next 48 to 72 hours. I want to get to your calls. We got calls from Ohio and from all over the country. Let's go to Dorian, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, listening on KDKA, America's oldest radio station. Go right ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Valdez.
Hey, Dorian.
I was sitting on the edge of my seat and just enjoying every syllable that former President Donald Trump spoke tonight, and I'm a registered Democrat who will vote for Donald Trump.
Good for you. And how did you just come to that realization, or did you make your mind up about that a while back?
I was leaning that way, but I'm ready for America to get better.
What put you over the top tonight?
I'm an older guy. Leadership. I believe that he's a man that does what he says.
Yeah, it seems that way to me too. And what's the big issue for you as a Democrat that's voting for Trump? What's the big issue? Is it the economy? Is it the border? Is it foreign policy?
Well, the border, absolutely, but I'm an older guy. I'm 77, and I have a blood grandson in his early 30s, and I want him to have a better life than I've had. And I do believe 4 more years for Donald Trump is going to make that happen.
I hope so. I'm with you, brother. I'm in your corner, and I'm not doubting that either. I'm very hopeful for for a very solid presidency from Trump. Honestly, it's kind of like anything after Biden. There's nowhere to go but up. Dorian in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, thank you for your call. I appreciate your honesty. And big shout out to everybody listening on KDKA, Wendy Bell Country. Anyway, let's continue. Where do I want to go? I want to go to Michael, Pendleton, Oregon, KUMA. Go right ahead, Michael.
Rich, great talking to you again. Great show.
Thank you.
What a great speech. I feel it's the best speech. I wanted to call you on my birthday, too. It's July 19th. I'm turning 71 years young.
Get out of here. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, Rich. I wanted to call on my birthday. This is the best speech I've heard since the days of the great Ronald Reagan. I remember 1980 very well, Rich. We were in trouble. We had a 20% inflation rate. I like Jimmy Carter personally as a person, but the job wasn't getting done as president with Jimmy Carter. Ronald Reagan saved our country, I feel, in the 80s. And Donald Trump is going to save our country again. What a great speech. And we need unity. I agree. I wish my fellow Democratic Americans well. I want us to be united. But the path forward, the America we need, is going to be led by the policies and leadership of Donald Trump. That is my opinion. It's not going to make everybody happy, but boy, I bet a lot of people agree with that. And what a great speech. I hope President Trump is listening. I know he listens to the show. So, President Trump, I am so proud of how you handled the horrible situation last Saturday. You're in our prayers. Thank goodness you survived. Ronald Reagan went through the same thing. He had to survive an attempt like that in his life. And like I said, you and him are the two best presidents, I feel, of my life, Ronald Reagan and Donald J. Trump.
Outstanding. Michael in Pendleton, Oregon, happy birthday to you, 71 years young. God bless you, my friend. Thanks for always being a faithful listener and caller. Big shout out to everybody in Oregon on KUMA. And I will pause right here. We're going to come back to your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Rich Valdez, who again will do a fine job, and I know you'll enjoy listening to it.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. I wanted to take a moment to recognize somebody I've spoken with a couple of times and had the pleasure of meeting. Lou Dobbs, journalist, commentator. He passed away today, 78 years old. Godspeed to the Dobbs family and everybody he worked with. One of his producers, a really good friend of mine. And I meant to mention that earlier, but we were tapping into the Trump speech live, and I did not want to end the program without acknowledging Lou Dobbs, dead at 78 years old. All right, we continue with your calls. Let's go to Paul, Boise, Idaho, KBOI. Paul, go right ahead.
Thanks for taking my call, Rich.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'll be perfect. Yeah, stellar show once again, having the
Thank you, brother.
former president and the next president on. I loved it.
Yeah, I agree.
I couldn't get enough. Yep, he was exponentially just great tonight. The one word that comes to mind the most would be humility. He showed a lot of humility and spoke about humility without saying the word, and you could feel it.
Yeah. Paul, I agree. He talked about, you're right, he showed a lot of love in his speech, but he was very humble, and not humble from a sense of I don't have anything, humble from a sense of like really grateful to be alive, grateful to have that new lease on life that that God's given him. Paul.
Yeah, he expressed it a bunch of different ways. It wasn't just love. It was the fact that he wanted us to succeed together. It wasn't about him taking all the credit for it. It may have been his idea, but he wants us all to join together and know that there is a possible way out of a $35 trillion deficit that we've got, and that doing this together, we can knock that out. And the sky's the limit, as a good caddy friend of mine used to say. He'd say the sky's the limit, and I believe it when he was talking tonight, and I'll back him any way he wants.
Me too. I'm 100% with President Trump here, and the policies that made this country really soar. And it would have been so nice to see 2 terms back to back, minus this 4 years of Biden, inflation, and everything else, crazy foreign policy. Paul in Boise, thank you so much, my brother. God bless you. KBOI. Let us continue. Ray, New Franklin, Ohio, WNIR. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Richie. Great show. I love your show at night. It's really informative.
I appreciate it. You know, a lot of people think Hillary Clinton is going to be the Democrats' nominee. Do you think that the superdelegates are going to put her forward at the convention?
That's my whole reason I called. I've long since told my family and friends that Hilarious Clintorius is going to be the nominee. I've known that for a long time because you could see the handwriting on the wall. If you look and see that all the rascals they're talking about, they have mostly no national recognition. They have regional only. They got very vulnerable records. Anybody who's got this 6 weeks or so, whatever, to get ready, they're stepping into a losing situation. I can't see anybody doing it.
But even if we look at Hillary Clinton, right, Ray, and I'm just devil's advocate here because I just don't think she can pull it off. I would say, so we're going to take a 2-time loser to make her a 3-time loser, throw her into this thing because people know who she is. Obviously, if people liked her, they would have voted for her the first time, or maybe even the second time. What do you think about her makes it third time is the charm?
Richie, she's got a big ego, and that's nothing, no knock against her because a lot of people in politics have it. But she's always she's desperate, and I think the other side of the coin is that the convention are not going to find all the other rascals acceptable. They're short in all these other things, all these reasons for. And I honestly believe that she's got name recognition. She's there. Yeah. So she loses. So what? She doesn't care herself, I don't think.
Maybe she doesn't care. I don't think she does. I know that. I think the delegates don't care. We'll see what happens. We're close enough. Ray, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Pat in Sedona, I owe you one. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, Trump's speech made me feel good too. Folks, great open phones. It was great hearing Trump's speech. Looking forward to getting with you guys tomorrow. Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night. And God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.